G'day, welcome one and all to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. This time we are going to be continuing in our Mechanoid series, taking a look today at the 5-star blue legendary hero, Tremor, the Bazooka Specialist. So Tremor is available for summons from the Mechanoid Menace portal, which rolls around once every 8 weeks. It is on a monthly appearance rate, this slot, but it alternates every other month with the other Alliance event, which is the Monster Island. So unfortunately, as we saw, this portal doesn't have any featured odds, so anytime you summon in it, you're as likely to summon Tremor as any other legendary Mechanoid hero, coming in at that 1.2% chance. Tremor has been in the game for a very long time. He was introduced during the first appearance of the Mechanoid Menace Alliance event back in March 2021. The portal's been expanded twice since then, with additional heroes added in April 2022 and then again in an update in June 2023. A little bit of additional history for Tremor. In November 2021, Tremor did actually receive a balance change in the negative direction, so his damage, it has been reduced from 230% down to 200%, which is what we see today. At the time of this nerf, the majority of alliances were actually running blue tanks, with Tremor being the absolute preferred option. I did do a review video of all of those balance changes, so if you are interested, it is somewhere on my channel, so just search for balance changes and you should be able to find the video in question. Heading over to my roster, and we can have a look at Tremor's artwork. I should have prepped this a second ago. There we go. So yeah, he is titled the Bazooka Specialist. He's got a bazooka. He's got a lot of mortar shells to go into the bazooka. Not too much more to say on him. He does have, I guess, a couple different types of ammunition shells going on. So yeah, that's Tremor's artwork. So I don't know, I don't mind his artwork. I think it kind of is quite fitting with his title. So yeah, heading back to the portal, and we can take a look at continue looking at his cards. Specifically, we'll take a look at his family bonus. So he is a member of the Mechanoid's family. So this family bonus grants them a chance to have a plus 12, 18, 24 or 30% chance to execute a support attack against the main target of an ally special skill if there are 2, 3, 4 or 5 unique members of the Mechanoid family in battle. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but basically what it's saying is that if you've got multiple unique heroes in a battle that are from the Mechanoid's family, there's a chance that they can execute a support attack when you attack an enemy hero. So a support attack, if you don't know, it's just a 100% snipe against the specified targeted hero. So it is worth noting that they do have to be unique heroes, so you can't bring along 2 copies of Tremor. It's got to be like Tremor and Booster, or Tremor and Cutlass as an example. The Mechanoid family also gains a bonus when you use these heroes during the Mechanoid Menace event. Specifically, they gain a plus 4, 8, 12, 16 and 20% attack and defense buff for having 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 unique Mechanoid family heroes in your team. Again, they have to be unique, but it is also worth noting that this stat bonus only applies during the Mechanoid event. It doesn't apply in any other format of the game. It's only during the Mechanoid's event. So yeah, in terms of Tremor's personal stats, he does come in with 608 attack, 790 defense and 1399 HP. So he does have a relatively low overall stat line spread, because he is quite old and there has been a substantial amount of power creep since then. However, at the time, he does have a massive skewing towards that defense and that defense stat, a little bit towards HP, but heavy skewing from his attack stat towards that defense stat. So yeah, he's a chunky boy. His charge speed is set to 50, which is average. So this speed requires 10 tiles to charge or 5 ghosted tiles. To get a speed break, you do need to get him up to 58 charge, so plus 8. So this is possible using either of the plus 9 blue speed guns, so either the Regal Eyes and Magnum or the Ice Breath Saw. A double break is impossible at this stage in the game. It requires plus 15, so for that reason, the class node isn't overly relevant. You're not going to gain any benefit at getting a single break, and you're definitely not going to get the double break happening. In terms of his class, Tremor is a member of the Demolitions class, which grants the chance to shell shock the enemy, removing buffs from the target whenever dealing damage. Removing of buffs will also trigger an increase of 15% damage per each buff removed, and an additional flat increase of 50% damage from normal damage sources. So I love this talent. I will say it that it's effectively a free, quote-unquote, chance to dispel buffs from the enemies without needing to charge any special skills or target any heroes and fire it or anything. So I typically will give all of my Demolitions heroes +1 once they're maxed, just to activate that chance at the debuffing. Yeah. So by way of an emblem path, in today's era, I would probably go on attack path to boost his damage output. Back in that day when he was the preeminent tank of the time, there was a choice where you could go with the defense and HP path, and that made a lot of sense. However, today he's not really among the best possible defensive heroes in blue, so the attacking route probably makes more sense to improve his damage output. So what that looks like on a hero, I'll just pull up War Chest because he's got this path. So this is what it would look like on a skill tree. So we're going attack route on each of the paths. There is no choices where you have to choose between attack or attack on both options, so we are just chasing that attack stat the whole way down the tree. You can see there I stopped at +18. This would be the same thing for for Tremor, because as I said, that speed node, it's not really relevant, and spending 375 emblems to get that final percent based attack node, really not worth it. So yeah, 100% would stop at +18, if not +15 or earlier on Tremor. Jumping back into the portal, and we can grab his card and take a look at his special skill. So his special skill is titled Shattering Warheads, and at level 10 skill and 50 charge speed will deal 200% damage to all enemies, and then apply a -50% healing to all enemies for 3 turns, and a -50% armor to all enemies for 3 turns. Both of these 2 effects cannot be cleared. So splitting that apart a little bit, we'll start with the attack or the damage output. So damage is really hard to quantify and quantify consistently because it's got a lot of inputs to the damage calculation. So what I do instead is I compare heroes that deal damage on their attack power, which feeds into the damage calculation. So attack power is a metric where you take a hero's attack stat and you multiply it by the percentage listed in their skill. So in the case of Tremor, we have 608 attack and 200% defense, which comes, 200% damage, which comes out at an attack power of 1,216. To normalize that against the various different speeds of different heroes, we just divide by the number of tiles. So in the case of Tremor, that's divided by 10 because he needs 10 tiles to charge. So that comes out at an attack power of 122, which for blue is bang in the middle. Like, it is within a very tight range with number 3, 4, and 5. Blue damage dealers. So we've got Clara at 128, Tremor at 122, and Guppy coming in at 123 attack power per tile. There is a step up towards the next bracket in Sapphire at 161 and War Chest at 144, and there is also a step down to the next bracket, which is Nightblade, Copeland, Vasquez, and finally Panzer. So there's kind of like the 3 brackets. You've got the best, the middle, and then sort of the bottom end of the spectrum. So Tremor comes in at a very respectable number 4 rank. The ones above him in Sapphire and War Chest, they do benefit from much higher attack stats and / or better percentage in their skills. So in spite of that really low base attack stat that he does come in at number 4 on this list. And like I said, if you start pumping attack emblems into him, he actually does jump up a little bit in that ranking system as well. Moving on from the direct damage to the other 2 components of his skill, I'm going to consider them somewhat together because they're effectively the same, just targeting slightly different perks. So the last 2 lines will apply a -50% to armor and healing that the targeted enemies generate for 3 turns. It's an effect that can't be cleansed as well, which is good. For those of you that have sort of been tuning into a lot of these review videos, you'll know that I generally don't like increased or reduced healing as an effect, and that's true in the majority of cases. What makes Tremor quite unique is that it means that I don't actually mind the effect on him, and what makes him unique is that there's kind of 3 things. Number 1, it is both healing and armor. There's not many instances where you target both the healing generated and the armor generated. Usually it's one or the other, and because it's only ever one or the other, you can kind of work around it a little bit by just bringing like the opposite. So if a hero reduces health gained, you just bring an armor generator, and if a hero reduces armor generated, you just bring a healer. Whereas with Tremor, you can't really work around it because it's hitting both of those 2 stats, and it makes it much more widely ranging in its application. What would make it even more awesome, and this would sort of make Tremor like a beast is if it also blocked minions from being generated or wiped them out, but, you know, that's kind of like what the damage does, I guess, is wipes minions out. The second thing that makes it really good is that it's uncleansable, so you're always going to get that 3-turn duration. You don't have to worry about if there's multiple healers on the enemy team. If the first one fires and cleanses it away, the second one can then, you know, get the full healing amount. In the case of Tremor, you're always going to get that full 3 turns, which makes when he's used on defense quite annoying, because the attacker is forced to either wait the full 3 turns out or trigger it early and be content with losing half of their healing. So, and that's the third thing that's really actually good about this combination, is that it's actually a decent percentage. It's 50%. It's not something you're going to be like, I can deal without 50% of my healing. No, that's actually a sizable amount. On a lot of the other heroes, you're talking about 2%, 4%, 10% kind of thing, and it doesn't really play much into it. But in the case of Tremor, it's 50% to healing and armor. That's a noticeable amount that you're losing. So overall, while Tremor is a fairly mature aged hero these days, he is still actually quite effective in both attack and defensive situations. Effective in attack, probably passable on defense situations. So for me, I see his best use not so much on the damage side of things, but as like a healer neutralizer. He deals out the decent damage, but then also prevents the enemy team from recovering from that damage for a minimum of 3 turns. You can bolster that out with heroes that like extend buff ailment and durations, but that's neither here nor there for this review. Teams where I see he would complement really nicely in are ones where you can either bolster his overall damage, or in a situation where you've got like another hitter that's sort of hitting really hard. So some examples of this might be using him with like Clara and Sapphire. They both do pretty hefty damage out themselves, but they also apply an attack buff, so it's going to boost his damage output as well. Ghost is another good option for pairing. She's got a defense down on 3 enemies, which is going to improve his damage output. But yeah, he can really be used nicely with any snipers or DOA 3 hitters who are going to soften them up a bit more before hitting them with a more concentrated force. And as I said, that health and armor generation reduction, it actually works well in that situation as well. So overall, for Tremor's grading, I'm going to give him a B+ for war and raid situations in attack. This is because, as I said, there's a lot of versatility with that healing neutralization. For war machines, I'm going to drop him down to a D+ because he has got a really low attack stat and there's no healing or armor for him to really negate. In events, I'm going to bump him up to a C, or it's down from a B+, so it's kind of a C. Not great in those situations, but you can use him, I guess. For raid and ward defense situations, I'm going to give him a B. Today, he's probably best suited as a flank behind a really strong tank, but there was a time when he was the preeminent tank of choice in the game. In tournament settings, so starting with the Bloody Battle, I'm going to knock him down to a B- and a C on attack and defense, and that's because there's no armor or healing in that tournament setting, so he's just a damage dealer, in which case there's other options that are better suited. For buff boosters, I'm going to give him a B and a C+. He's not generating any buffs, so he does lose out a little bit, but for charged attack, I'm going to give him an A- for attack and a B- for defense, because he does get some improvement from 50 up to 65. So overall for his grading, that comes in at a B- for attack and a B- for his defense. So B- on both attack and defense for his overall grading. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Tremor. As always, this is just my personal opinion. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on these heroes, so please jump down into the comments section of the video. I try to read as many comments as I can and reply to as many as I possibly could as well. If you found the video to be useful or enjoyed the content, like the video, subscribe to my channel. There's plenty more content like this floating around. But most importantly, share the video around with the people you play with, because chances are if the video is useful for yourself, it's also going to be useful to those other people also. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review video. I do hope that I will see you again soon in another one, but until then, stay safe, good luck, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!